Hello everyone, thank you for joining us this month of July. My name is David Manning and I'll be presenting the Plant 3D User Community Virtual Meetup for July on this day the 14th. Thank you for joining. Those who came in early, thank you very, very much. It's always great to see the numbers ticking in. I still see people coming in, but we can't leave it too long, so we'll run out of time. If you have any questions, don't forget to unmute or to raise your hand. As we're starting and while people are still coming in, the usual prompts that if you can keep your line muted if it's not already done so that we can keep a clean recording, which should have already started as well. And I'll just validate that's actually happening. It is, that is good. If you have any questions in the toolbar or the panel for GoToWebinar, there is a Q&A section, which I see someone's already using, which is wonderful. And if you've got any questions at any stage for the webinar, pop them in there. And as soon as I can, I'll get to those questions and answer them as we're going through if appropriate. Otherwise, I'll try and answer any remaining at the end. Regarding your question, Sandulu, no, we don't give certificates for this particular webinar. This is purely voluntary. It's a casual engagement where we encourage community to come together and have a conversation about issues. So as I said, my name's David Manning. I'm a designated support specialist with Autodesk. I specialize in Plant 3D and P&ID predominantly. I also support AutoCAD, ReCap, Navisworks, Fusion 360, Vault, and the BIM 360 tools. I'm actually a piping designer by trade and come from a few years' experience in the industry. Vina's not with me today, so I'll skip over Zinon's slide. So as normal, our agenda is the overview we're going through right now. We'll touch on a small bit of Plant 3D news about the industry. This month's theme, though, is interesting. Last month or the month before, we went through and touched on the Revit interoperability, which is better, Plant 3D or Revit, and we discovered that neither is better. Both have their place in the industry. It is really which is better for you and your project. This month, we're going to have a look at a much deeper dive into specific workflows about using Plant 3D and Revit on the same project and how they interact with each other. So, and at the end, there will hopefully be time, unless we get too carried away, for some follow-up questions and QA and questions and answers at the end. So the objectives for today is we're going to have a quick look at the review Revit P&ID modeler and do a bit of a demo on that. We're going to understand how to use CAD Link to link Revit to reference in Plant 3D models into Revit, how to efficiently share Revit models into Plant 3D, and understand how to use BIM 360 model coordination, the new coordination spaces with Plant 3D, Revit, and other products. To the point I made before, these sessions are intended to be a casual engagement with bringing the community in Asia Pacific together, and people from around the world, to have a conversation about Plant 3D and the plant industry. So at any stage, the questions don't have to be specifically around Plant 3D industry as well, and we encourage you to not only type the questions, but also ask them verbally if you'd like. Now, I do have a safe harbor statement left in here as well. This is a general statement just to touch on it in general, that whenever we might end talking about things that affect the future of products or features with Autodesk that may have effect on your business, which is kind of any feature, product, or enhancement, we put this in here to point out that while I have certain exposure to things, I cannot guarantee anything going forward, and if you are making decisions for your business, then you really need to have that validated officially with Autodesk. While I will give you everything, all the knowledge that I have up to date and today, things can change, or I may not be aware of things happening in the background. So please, if you're making decisions for your business, have a conversation with your Autodesk representative and get an official statement on the best way forward and clarify any of those points that are roadblockers for you potentially. So the Plant 3D news, I think we're settling down with the people coming in. I think I will, that's fine. Plant 3D news is, we covered this in the previous months, but it is important and it is valuable. Up until not too long ago, we only had BIM 360 servers in the America region or the US region. We now have BIM 360 servers in Europe, and they're available for use for Plant 3D collaboration. Now, they don't carry all the same services that the US servers do, and there's a list there on the left-hand side you can have a look at. But if you want the most up-to-date information, go to the FAQs, and there's a hyperlink in the presentation if you're looking for it. And make sure you download that, check out the most current version, and to make sure that we're using, referring to the correct, most up-to-date information. Okay, and so I'm struggling to get this presentation to progress for me. So I'm just going to move a few things around so that I can see what's actually going on. Okay. No, there we go. So Revit P&ID Modeler. So Revit P&ID Modeler is streamlining the process for modeling in Revit based on P&IDs from Plant 3D and ensures consistency between the P&ID drawing and the Revit model. I'm going to open a video here, and I'm going to show you that because I think that while I talk to it, it's a good little demonstration. You can see it's coming from, if I can get my sharing to work, sharing screen one. See, it's coming from the help documentation for Revit, and that is in the presentation as well. I'll just jump into about here, and I'm going to hit play. I'm not going to watch the whole thing. I'm just going to let this play in the background while I talk to it, because it is easier to picture than a series of still pictures. So to use P&ID Modeler for Revit, use it for the following things. Firstly, is enabling collaboration between the project team members, including the reuse of data captured at the earlier stages. So typically the P&ID is done fairly early in a project, and the P&ID draft has put a lot of information like tag numbers, line sizes, specs, and there's a lot of information going to the back end of the database of Plant 3D. Using this enables us to reuse that data in a Revit P&ID piping, so Revit piping model directly. Use it to simplify the creation of the model from the early stage schematic deliverables by minimizing manual entry. Because you're connected to the P&ID and the database, you don't have to keep entering things in, so you're removing that human error potential. You can also use the Revit tools to validate consistency between the 2D schematic done in Plant 3D and the 3D model. So if it changes in Plant 3D or if something's wrong in Revit, it will do a validation and can let you know. The Plant 3D P&ID modeler for Revit is intended to replace the manual workflow that is traditionally used of creating a 3D model with the guidance of a printed P&ID, usually on someone's desktop with a couple of highlighters. Use this tool to create a 3D pipe model directly from the 2D P&ID data. Status indicators in the panel you can see there on the right, currently showing green, make it easy to track what has been modeled and what remains to be modeled. So the gray ones haven't yet been modeled, the green ones have. When you use the P&ID modeler for Revit, it creates the 3D model with you. You can view the P&ID drawing in Revit, as you can see there on the right-hand side. And since the P&ID resides in the cloud, you must log on with your Autodesk account to access the P&ID. And in this example here, the video, you can see Martin's sign in at the top there in the Revit dialog next to the little person graphic. Use the P&ID settings dialog to manage the mappings between the elements, such as the services and the families between the P&ID project and Revit. So Plant 3D and the P&ID and Revit don't necessarily have the same database title, so it's not automatically mapped. You do need to manually map that. And that is, once that's done, you're fairly right. And as you create the 3D model for the P&ID, or from the P&ID rather, Revit tracks which lines are complete and which are still in progress. Revit detects and displays a warning when there is an open connection or if there is a mismatch between the parts in the P&ID and the Revit model. And again, those indicators are shown around the left side of the panel there, in the indicators showing mismatches, as well as in the interface. So it's a pretty interesting little tool. And if I go back to the presentation, because I don't want to labor that, because it is available to you in my presentation, which you should be seeing. I'll just check. Yes. On the next page, you can see there we have some references here. Now, the video I was watching is part of this Revit help menu, which this hyperlink can take you to. There's also some good information on the Autodesk Revit blog, which if you're using Revit, I strongly recommend you subscribe to stay abreast of what's going on in the Revit world, and the Revit Recess blog as well. The top one here I left to last because it's a quite in-depth view in one of our Autodesk University classes with David Butts going through this process, and a great 57-page handout detailing how this all works. So excellent resource if you're considering it. Strongly recommend dropping into that and having a look, downloading the handout and watching the video to get a detailed understanding of what's going on. So the next step is we've been using the PNIDs from Plant 3D, which are native in that environment, and connecting them to do modeling in Revit. But what if we want to do the modeling in Plant 3D and Revit structures or any other building components in Revit? And how do we make the two components be able to see the design in each other's native authoring tool? First choice is often, let's do piping in Plant 3D and export that to Revit. So there are two options for bringing AutoCAD Plant 3D objects into Revit. The first method is very simple, and it automatically updates when the model in Plant 3D changes, but does not give the best results or functionality in Revit. This method is shown in the slide we're looking at right now. The second method, which we'll come to in a moment, requires more work and allows Plant 3D objects to be included in section views and other features within inside Revit, which then act more like Revit native objects. This method has the drawback of needing to be redone or reinserted when the Plant 3D model changes. And the choice ultimately depends on your preferences and your work or project preferences between the ease of access to or easy use of the drawings and having complete functionality with inside Revit. So let's look at method number one, which is the simplest way to use Plant 3D models in Revit, and that is to link them directly into your Revit model. So opening Plant 3D, in a Plant 3D model inside Plant 3D, of course, in the tool, you can use the export to AutoCAD command to create a copy of the model that includes AutoCAD solids rather than Plant 3D custom objects or proxy objects. Of course, if you want to include XREFs, use the XREF command to bind XREFs as a block into the Plant 3D drawing before exporting, so they're included. And then in Revit, you can insert them from the ribbon into the using the link can command to link the exported DWG file directly into Revit. Now don't panic, we're going to show you a video in a moment, but first I want to drop across to Plant 3D. If I open my Plant 3D and just have a quick look, the first stage here will be to have a look for the export to AutoCAD command. Now you can start typing, it'll come out. Launching that, you get a normal dialog. Now, if you needed to, you could. I don't have any XREFs bound in here, but if you did have XREFs, I don't think it'll let me do anything. You can bind them in here as well. If you don't know how to do that, reach out and I'll show you how to do that. But export to AutoCAD, which is going to dumb down the Plant 3D model and make it a simple AutoCAD model. Okay, it's about the shapes and the elements. I'm going to call that demo 1. Now the drawing does have to be saved before you can do this. If it's not, it'll prompt you as you go along. And I'm going to hit save. I'm going to make it 2 because I've already got one there I can see. And I'm going to my desktop just for convenience. Save there and successfully export it to AutoCAD. Now, this is obviously a very simple drawing. It happens very, very quickly. But Revit has capability to handle very large models. So that's the first step. And then you need to put that file into a location where the Revit team can access it and you can hand over to them. For that purpose, in the interest of time, I do have a recorded video. And again, please let me know if you have any issues with hearing the audio, because my colleague Joel Harris from the US is presenting on this, so I'll be quiet while he does that.
For method number 1, we're inside Revit, and we're going to use the link CAD command under the Insert ribbon tab to import our AutoCAD drawing, which was exported to AutoCAD and is now straight AutoCAD solids. We use the positioning of auto origin to internal origin, and that will place it in our model. If we need to manage our links, we have the Manage Links tab, and under CAD formats, you can see our link is there, and we can either reload it if it's been updated or remove it from the model altogether.
Okay, so I should be back. I hope that worked well for you. So that's method 1. Now let's take a drop over and let's have a look at method 2. If I can get it to progress, there we go. So method 2, which is the inserting of a new Revit family. This method takes several steps, but gives a much better result inside Revit with regards to Revit functionality. First, open the Plant 3D model and use the Export to AutoCAD command as we did before in method 1. Next, in Revit, create a new empty Revit family, and for example, using the generic model RFT file as the template, and then use the import CAD command to import the DWG that you exported from Plant 3D. Be sure to save the family, and then finally open the main Revit project model, whichever model you want to insert it into, and use the Load Family button on the Insert ribbon to load the new family. It will be available from the project browser under the generic models section. Click the node under generic models for the new family and select Create Instant to place it in your model. And again, I have a video for that as well as the slide there that you're looking at right now. So I'll show that now. Method 2, Plant 3D to Revit.
To use method 2, we take our AutoCAD Plant 3D drawing that's already been exported out to AutoCAD, so it's strictly solids. We're going to create a family out of that. So we're going to create a new family. So inside Revit, we do that. We're going to use the English. We use the metric generic model, which is right there. And then we'll go to Insert here, and under that ribbon tab, pick the Import CAD command. And we can go ahead and insert that in to our family. And when we zoom out to see it, we'll see that geometry is there. And we'll go ahead and save this Revit family. In this case, it's called a Family 3. We can rename that if you want to. And we'll call that out, save that as Plant 3D model. And that would be shared in a common location. Then we can go to our actual Revit model at that time. And in this case, we can go ahead and load that family up. And it's going to be available under generic models. You can see it right there. There's an instance of it right there. And we can create that in the model. And you can actually locate it or place it at 0, 0, wherever you'd like it to go.
Okay, so I'll just pause there. Are there any questions around exporting from Plant 3D to Revit? We will come up next to, in fact, I'll go to the next slide. The next thing we're going to cover is the Revit to Plant 3D. So I'll just pause for any questions around the Plant 3D to Revit 2 workflows we've just demonstrated. Okay, nothing coming through. Excellent. So let's look at exporting Revit to Plant 3D. So we've got piping models, inside our Revit models for reference. And you can build your structures around that, maybe it's your pipe racks, whatever you're doing with inside Revit. Now, if you want to take that structure and put it back into Plant 3D for use by the plant team. So questions just came in. Why would method 2 be an advantage? The main reason method 2 is advantageous because the Revit views work better and they'll section the model properly. Method 1 doesn't section appropriately because it's just a reference. I hope that answers it. Okay. So moving on. Thanks, Jonathan. Appreciate the confirmation. Thank you very much. Okay, so exporting from Revit to Plant 3D. Again, 2 methods, no surprise there. One's simple and easy, but less features. The next one is more complicated, but is more thorough and has extra functions you can use with it. So there are 2 ways to bring Revit objects into AutoCAD Plant 3D. The first module, as I said, is simpler, but does not require any configurations, but it is limited in its use. The second method requires you to repeat the steps whenever the Revit design changes. So method 1, Navisworks XREF into AutoCAD. In AutoCAD Plant 3D 2016 and later, you can XREF Navisworks NWDs or Cs into AutoCAD DWG. A limitation is that it's not possible to view the Navisworks properties or the discrete elements within that environment. So that the Navisworks model is a model in itself, and you can't isolate individual parts of it. Another restriction is that the XREF cannot be used in orthographic drawings. It's not something we use in that space. It is just a visual reference. And that is even if they are contained within the author generation window. It's just simply not the functionality available. This process works well when showing the XREF is not required in the orthographic views and is really simple, lightweight, and easy to use. For example, during the design phase while the Revit models change often, it's a great way to be able to iterate with your plant or your design team in the plant space, but isn't great for your output of 2D drawings of orthos. We don't have any video on that one. It's pretty straightforward. If you like at the end, if somebody wants to ask the question or put something comment there, I'm happy to give a demonstration of using that process. It is really straightforward. It is just an XREF, but it's the attached coordination model, which is the NWD, NWC files. And honestly, that can be any NWD, NWC. So Navisworks is a great platform for bringing in and visualizing numerous file formats, including any that are not Autodesk file formats, like IFC, for example. So it's a great way to be able to use that to access file formats you're not familiar with in Plant 3D. The second method is a little bit different, which is exporting a DWG or a SAT file from within Revit. The second method is used to export the 3D models from Revit and then import them into an AutoCAD Plant 3D as a native AutoCAD object. This method works best when you need those objects to appear in the orthographic drawings. So in one example might be you might use the NWC, NWDs as you're going through the iteration process, and then when you get to the end of the project, you could utilize this, or at various phases of the project, utilize this process of method 2 to create orthographics in Plant 3D or embed them into the plant project. So this is great when you need them to be in the ortho drawings. First, make sure you have a complete 3D view in your Revit model selected from the browser. So it doesn't work if you use the 2D views. You need to use the 3D view that you need to want to see in Plant. From the application menu in Revit, use Export, CAD Formats, DWG, and then choose Modify Export Setup. Select the solids to be the ACIS solids, and this allows the objects to be recognized in the orthographic drawing, so that's kind of important. Save the exported file, and in AutoCAD Plant 3D, create a new drawing or reuse an existing one. But the idea is you should have a drawing that is dedicated to have these components inside it as a native element. So create a new drawing in a project manager that will contain the XREF of the Revit DWG export and add the XREF to that drawing. So you're going to add these files into it. Now, I do have a video for that. Sorry, and of course, last thing is save the drawing. So I'm going to show that video now. If I just can find the right one, Revit to Plant 3D, and we'll hit the play button.
Exporting a DWG file from Revit so that it can be used in AutoCAD Plant 3D is a fairly simple operation. The main thing is to make sure that you've reduced the level of detail in your Revit view and that you're in a 3D view, shown here, of the model so that the geometry you expect to be exported will be exported in 3D. So in this case, if I had any small holes or layers that I could turn off, geometry that I could turn off that wasn't necessary for AutoCAD Plant 3D, it will save you a lot of time in orthographic generation as well as in overall model performance. So I'm going to go to File and I'm going to Export. And under CAD formats, I have the option of DWG and also the ACIS solids or SAT can be generated. These files tend to be larger, but you can take them into Inventor and do things like shrink wrap. Export those from there if you need to clean up equipment models for use in Plant 3D. If we go out to a DWG file here, we recommend that you go to the export setup and modify that export setup to make sure that your solids that you're exporting are going to be ACIS solids rather than meshes. And that will generate nice clean geometry that will be sent out to AutoCAD Plant 3D, and then you would XREF that drawing into your AutoCAD Plant 3D model that you create. And so you can call this whatever you want to. Just be consistent with that, because if you use it as an XREF, then you want to be able to have that XREF automatically update in Plant 3D by exporting out from Revit to the same file name and in the location that can actually be referenced by Plant 3D.
Okay, so one of the things he mentioned there was the Inventor shrink wrap. I'm just going to put a quick little hyperlink in the chat there if you're interested in it. And I was just looking that up because I know it's a common area I talk about with customers all the time. Shrink wrapping in Inventor is a great way to simplify models so you don't have all the little holes and all the fine detail, as well as protecting IP for that matter, if you want to share it in Plant 3D with other people. There are some excellent workflows with Inventor. We've covered that before, but the link's there if you want a quick look to see how that works, and the iProperties and all sorts of connections. So just have a look at that in if you want to, but it's a bit of a diversion from what we're doing here. But if you do need to simplify things, you can do that through Inventor. Or if you have too much detail in the Revit models and things when you bring them into Plant, they can really bog down the AutoCAD workflows. So it's one advantage to keep them simple or as light as possible. Okay, so BIM 360 coordination spaces. That's the next topic. I'm going to pause there. So we've looked at 3 things so far. Pause for questions, and I'm going to chat for a minute while we just do that. So we've covered 3 things. First thing was using Plant 3D native intelligent PNIDs, which can save you an awful lot of time when you're modeling. When you're doing your PNIDs over standard traditional 2D unintelligent workflows in your Revit piping model space if you're using Revit MEP. Again, saving time and keeping things more correct when you're validating those two things. Secondly, you can, if you do your piping in Plant 3D, which is nice, light and easy and accurate, you can then export that and use that in the Revit space for reference around the structures, and you can create your 3D views and do things like that as well as, of course, down the road to things like InfraWorks or other, even Google Maps, KML files, and all sorts of things down the flow if you let to go down that path. And the last thing we looked at saying, okay, so we've got, if we're doing Revit structures or other Revit building components and things in Revit, and we want to be able to see them in Plant 3D, we can now export those back into Plant 3D so that both teams can work seamlessly together, or fairly closely together, if not seamlessly. Now, don't see any additional questions, so I'm going to keep moving on and we'll touch on the coordination spaces. So BIM 360 Design, if you haven't seen it before, is part of our BIM 360 suite of products. So BIM 360 is a platform, and what we're looking at here is a bit of the structure of the platform in itself. So for this next section, we're going to be discussing how to coordinate between Plant 3D, Revit, and other design tools using the features of BIM 360 Design and Coordination suites, which is built upon our BIM 360 platform and the BIM 360 Docs foundational module. With Revit Design Collaboration, Plant 3D, and Civil 3D, you can share your project data directly with and project data and your design files directly with BIM 360 Design. And within BIM 360 Model Coordination, you're able to leverage additional coordination features, automation, and the coordination spaces. Coordination spaces allows you to choose the BIM 360 Docs folder to place models from the different teams. And once you've done that and the drawings or models are in there, it automates clash detection and runs automated clash detection on these files using cloud computing resources. So there's none of your time, it just happens in the background, it's all automated. It uses a web browser that you can view models within the coordination space like you do elsewhere in BIM 360 Docs. And that's light enough to be on a mobile phone or a smartphone, of course, or a tablet device, small laptops, or your design office laptop. Wherever you are in the world, you can view those really easily and quite lightweight. The models can be copied into a collaboration space automatically using BIM 360 workflows as well. And Navisworks 2021 also includes integration with the BIM 360 coordination space, which includes the ability to view and edit issues. So let's look at some of these workflows in the next couple of slides. Like I said, this gets a little bit deep here, so if you've got any questions, please ask. Don't hesitate to ask. As I was talking about before, the document management module is the single or central data repository, which sits across all the BIM 360 services with the back end of the project home and insights analysis that happens on all BIM 360 projects. Ramping up to a collaboration project using Plant 3D, Civil, or Revit, we add on the BIM 360 design module, allowing you to share your designs directly with BIM 360. Storing them there, they become a single source of truth and collaborate truly globally, and often increasing feature functionality on the end user machine as well. And the last one we talked about is model coordination, which is coordinating all our designs from our different departments and organizations all in one space and being able to manage that as well. So we're going to go into that now. There is more on the far right side of that, which we won't go into today. And if you're interested in any of that, please reach out to your Autodesk representative. There is a lot of resources, and I'll show you a couple of simple ones at the end, but there's a lot more available if you're interested. Okay, so let's get started. Let's look at BIM 360 Coordinate, the coordination spaces, looking at what they are and the clash detection in the cloud. Coordination spaces are simple to define from the project administration module of the BIM 360 account. First, you name the coordination space and then choose a BIM 360 folder representing the space containing the files you want to use in coordination. Once you select the coordination space, once you select create, the coordination space is active and active in the BIM 360 project. Project administrators can deactivate this at any stage. So once you've done all that, it is active and everything happens automatically in the background. It's that simple. If you need to, you can deactivate it at any stage, right, as a project administrator, or I guess, or as an account administrator as well. Again, looking at the structured documents approvals, which is passing the analysis from person to person. From the project admin, and then the services, and then the reviews section of the BIM 360 administration, you can create approval workflows that allow specific users to be notified and to approve or reject models that may then be automatically copied to the coordination space within BIM 360 docs. Once they are in the coordination space, they can be viewed for clashes, which happen automatically in the background, don't forget, as well as other important design requirements. You may designate various stages of interdisciplinary checks along the way using the approval workflows and model coordination spaces. Again, the model coordination space as a whole has got a lot of functionality and features inside there. And if you want to dig into that, you can absolutely do that at some point. However, the simple process for a Plant 3D project is we can create a very simple workflow that if you want to go through a digital approval of a model, you can automate the copying of that model into a coordination space, which will also then automatically check for clashes against a Revit file or a 3D file or whatever other IFC files are in there. And issues and that sort of issue management can be dealt with in an entire project space in BIM 360. Looking at a basic example of that, in this example, you may designate Plant 3D model folders in your project based upon the project areas contained in the working design model. So we're just taking it very, very simply in that we've created using the plant areas in our sample project, which comes with all Plant 3D installations, as the coordination spaces. So in this case, collaboration for Plant 3 will create the corresponding folders in the BIM 360 docs section under the projects files area of the BIM 360 project. So when you upload a Plant 3D project to BIM 360, you'll see exactly the same folder structure as when you shared the project in BIM 360, and we can use these files to actually coordinate if we want to. At this point, you can create new folders, if you like, accessible to other members of the teams outside the Plant 3D project. So it's a good, if you're using roles and user permissions to restrict access to the Plant 3D project itself, these review workflows can copy the drawings to external folders outside of the Plant project, which you can again control to a completely separate set of people that may not even be visible to Plant people, for argument's sake. Okay, so that's what it's showing there. And you see that is the area 1, 2, and 6 in a separate set of folders. So at this point, we can create folders accessible to other team members outside the Plant 3D project folder structure, which will be the coordination space for the project. So it's called Models Federation there, but it's a coordination space so long as you define it as a coordination space in that BIM 360 module. Finally, to get drawings in there in the most logical, of course, you can manually put them in there if you want to, but to get them there in a controlled manner, we can create an approval workflow, the approval workflows being a BIM 360 function that copies models from wherever they are in the BIM 360 space, whether it's from a Revit design collaboration folders or a Plant 3D folder, into the coordination space that you specified. We've got one last video we're going to show you on that. So if I show you that, might make a bit more space, bit more sense, and I'll hand it over to Joel to do that now.
So with our piping model checked out from the BIM 360 project, we can make changes to it. And at that point, when we check it back into BIM 360, we can set up an approval workflow that actually moves those models to the collaboration workspace. So we'll save this back up to BIM 360 now. As the project administrator for this project that I've created here for Plant 3D, I can create a approval workflow. In this case, I'm going to create an Area 1 approval workflow that takes models from the design team's various locations, whether it's Revit, Civil 3D, Plant 3D, and moves those models to the Area 1 folder underneath the approved for models for folder federation location. I can define who's going to be able to initiate the process. This would be one of our model editors, and the approver can be one of our admins, or if we have a checker. And then we can specify here the location where those models will be placed after approval is complete, and they'll be copied there. In BIM 360, under the document management module, we have our Plant 3D project location here. And it's located underneath the project files. And it has the different area folders that we talked about. And in that area folder, I can see the model that I just updated. And we can go ahead and submit that for review. If there was other models, we would select those as well. And this is going to be our Area 1 approved for coordination workflow. And that will be go ahead and initiated. We'll submit that. And the approvers will be notified that there is a review open, and they initiate the review. We can go ahead and send to other project members if we need to. The approver receives an email from BIM 360 and can then initiate the review of that particular document set that needs to be approved for move to the coordination location. And here's the model. I can view it if I want to within the BIM 360 viewer, looking at it from here, make comments, necessary changes or whatever, and then we can go ahead and accept that. By starting the review here, setting this review to me, and we go ahead and approve it. Once we've looked at it, we can add comments if we want to, and that's reviewed. So now we can see that after the approval, our model, as well as other models that were linked to it and models that are came from other approvals, are all going to reside in this Area 1 folder. What's nice about this now is that these are all ready for review and model coordination, which we can switch to. And after the models have been put in there, a clash detection will be run in the cloud automatically. And you can see the clashes that are available for your models. If there are clashes out there, you can review them within model coordination space and see them, the different views. We could mark them up with comments if we needed to. Then finally with Navisworks, we can use the BIM 360 coordination tab to open up a coordination space that's in BIM 360. By selecting our project, selecting our drawing that we want to look at, and open it up, and we'll be able to review the clashes here, and if there are any issues, we'll see those as well.
Okay, so that's a good little video from Joel. And at this point, we're done with the main content. So we've looked at using Plant 3D P&IDs in Revit. We've looking at using Plant 3D models inside Revit. We've looked at using Revit models inside Plant 3D, and looking at them both, Revit, Plant 3D, and Civil 3D, all inside BIM 360 coordination spaces. If you've got any questions, I'm going to open the attendees panel so I can see if anybody needs to be has your hand raised. You can raise your hand if you want to ask your question vocally, or you can put it into the Q&A panel. I've just been answering while that video was playing, a few of the others that are already in there. And this is your chance to investigate further. All right, while we're waiting for people to think, we do have a couple of extra slides in here, just generally about upskilling your team. Basically, we have a few resources that you might find useful that are out there at the moment that you may have missed, although we've shared a number of them in earlier webinars. The Plant 3D with the Experts 2021 videos is a series of short videos on Plant 3D features and functionality, starting with the absolute basics of what is it and why we use it, and great little videos to hand over to your management or your other people that are trying to understand why you want to use Plant 3D, and it can help you justify that. There's quite a few of them in there if you're interested, going through various bits and pieces, including the collaboration for Plant 3D with BIM 360 design functions. So only about 15 minutes there to go through it, and of course we went through it in full detail in one of our previous collaboration community meetups. Specifically regarding the Revit Tutorials courses and AU classes, so more materials on this specifically. Online classes through Autodesk University are an amazing resource, hundreds and hundreds of hours of content there that you can access at any stage for free, as well as the Autodesk Design Academy and additional YouTube and screencast links there as well. Those are hyperlinks you can access when you get the presentation. Paul has a question for me. Will Plant 3D get a more intelligent database where weights are calculated and automatically generated to suit each individual part? We have the ability to do some calculations at this point. I'm not sure I fully understand what you're specifically after. But yeah, absolutely, there are ways to do weight calculations, adding them in. Plant can do some weight calculations if it's not doing what you need right now. Maybe put a question in the forum and see what the community is doing. It's often a really good way to get answers. If you've already investigated it, then absolutely put it into the ideas station. If I get a chance, I'll dig that link up. But the ideas station, if you just Google Plant 3D, Autodesk Plant 3D Ideas Station, it's a repository for submitting ideas to the development team look at and consider that for enhancement in the future. Just before you put anything new in, just check that nobody else has put it in before, and if they have, vote for it to increase its attention. Okay, so in general, yeah, I'd say there's any potential to enhancements are there. We just need to prioritize them for value and complexity. And from Pushkar, not in a fill section, we're looking for it during design phase. Look, absolutely, you can use the BIM 360 modules at any stage. Again, I was just reaching out to your Autodesk team to have a discussion around checklists. There is absolutely functionality to use them at all stages of the project, whether it's the design phase or the construction phase. It's all really about formatting, and it all sits within the same project. No worries, mate. Okay, to that point, actually, great little example. So we're talking about BIM 360 field there in the Q&A with Pushkar. It's not one of the ones on screen, unfortunately, but this is the BIM 360 learning or self-guided learning paths. These are fairly short course, like itty-bitty short courses. And somebody asked me right at the start whether you can get certificates. These don't offer certificates, but they are trackable. You see at the top there, you can sign in. If you sign in, what it does, it tracks it against your Autodesk profile. And when you click on one of these modules and you go to it, if you stop halfway through and you come back to it tomorrow or in a month's time, it will know how far you're through, so you don't have to try and remember what point you got to, and you can just continue on. And each one of these is broken up into short little videos. I think the longest I saw was 5 minutes. Most of them are around 2 to 3 minutes. Really condensed information to get you going with these features. One of these will be BIM 360 field. Chances are that one down there, yes, it is strongly focused around the the construction and the Q&A side, but it's a checklist. You can use them at any stage in a project. I've personally looked at setting them up for checklists on drawings and all sorts of things. Realistically, it's how you decide to set it up. Creativity is the key to make things work best. So if you haven't seen that, that's great. And if you haven't seen this, I'm glad. Thank you very much for clarifying. Sorry, Pushka was just saying thank you very much. It helps, and I'm glad it does. I keep forgetting sometimes you guys can't see the Q&A panel. The Customer Success Learning Hub is a great resource. If you haven't seen that before, it's also really, really good. And jump in there and look at there's plenty of articles and resources. New registration page of this is coming as well. And if you haven't before and you're using collaboration or our services, make sure you subscribe to the health dashboard. The ones I'm highlighting here, if you sign in and click on this bit here, opens this panel, and you can subscribe to be notified of any services if they're going to go for maintenance or if they're not functioning as they should at any given time. And 2021 and 2018 to 2020 here is all talking about the plant collaboration services. Now, in the interest of time, we've got 7 minutes left. I was going to drop over, and I think that's the last of the slides. So if you feel like dropping off, you're more than welcome. That is the end of the content. I will drop over and have a look at this bit here, the videos. I had the model pipes videos. You can see here on the Revit side, there's plenty of videos to walk you through the entire process, but there's also plenty of other things. I was hoping to have time to show you some more BIM 360 things. If you haven't seen it before, you haven't really dug into that space, just type in BIM 360, or maybe even try to start from scratch, Autodesk BIM 360, and that'll take you to usually probably one of these public sites. And if you've got access to a project or a demo project, logging in will get you access to it. If you don't, get a demo and have a look at it. If you're an enterprise customer, yes, that's an excellent point. Thank you very much, Bokova. Yes, there's a feedback link. Yes, I will do that as well. Plant 3D forums. So forums, Autodesk community there. So yeah, if you haven't done that, jump in. And if you're an enterprise customer, reach out to your account team. They're more than likely got a hub for you, an account for you set up already. You just need to get access. Now, if you've got feedback on something, whether it's Plant 3D as a product, or if you want to talk about the virtual meetups that we're doing, these community meetups, or even the Plant 3D with the Experts vlog, I have a couple of posts in here in the forums. And you can see, again, just a Google post search should bring these up. So if you've got any questions or comments, Plant 3D Virtual Community Meetup, feel free to come into here and have a chat with me, and we can talk about things going on. I try to post in here when there's specifically interesting changes. So it's a bit of a communication platform, and you can actually, I think, if you sign in, you can actually subscribe here as well, which means if something gets posted to it, you should be notified. There's a similar one here around the Plant 3D with the Experts, so community meetup, and that's the video blog in YouTube. You can always put comments in here, and you'll get feedback from some of these amazing people here who are in the community providing answers to at all stages, as well as people like Tomislav here, who's one of our partners, and these guys often work for partners too. So you're getting free help there really easily. However, if I go back to the ideas pages, so you can see this link here, and you can go back to all forums as well. We do have an ideas page for Plant 3D. This is what I was talking about before. If there's a feature in Plant 3D that isn't working for you, maybe that you've put a case in and they're told it wasn't a defect, it was intended functionality, or we can't do that, then this is a great place to come. It defaults to hot ideas if you haven't been here before, or we can look at the top voted. Let's go there and have a quick look. And top vote, and so if you've got an idea, something you want to see improved, you can create a post and you can submit an idea here. And as you do that, it'll prompt you for other ones in place. You can see some of my colleagues around, and if you like the idea, and I'm not signed in so I can't do it right now, you can vote for these ideas. You can see there's 135 votes, and we're looking at some of the top voted. The development team do monitor this, and as things come along, so we can see installation display in ortho view, one of the new features in 2021, has now been updated to implemented. If we wanted to, this under future consideration, we can do the same thing here where we can subscribe to this thread somewhere. I probably can't see it because I'm not signed in, but you can subscribe to these as well. And if you post in them, it will also allow you to be notified as things come along. Why don't I put that Plant 3D, go back to the top. I'll put this link in the chat for everybody in case you're looking for it, so you can grab that and you can go for a look straight away. And I'll put that in there and I'll send that to everybody, and I'll put it in the chat just to be thorough. And look, I think that's the end of the hour. I don't see any other questions. The last thing I will show you, and I'm going to cheat, I'm going to go through a shortcut of mine, and the links are in the presentation. If you are looking for it, again, I'll put it in the chat there. If you haven't seen it before today, please go ahead and have a look. It's a site I maintain to help you get back to the recordings. Now, we used to have them be a little bit less organized with recordings, but now if you come in here, you can see there are the presentations we use, which will be shared in the next week or in the next couple of days. It takes a week sometimes, depending how busy I am. And recordings are now available in this YouTube playlist. And again, that can take a few days. But this site here, we have all the subjects for the rest of the year. And as we get closer to the end of the year, we'll also put up 2021s. And in the forums as well, we asked you last year, and in the next couple of months, we'll probably reach out and say, what do you want to talk about next year? What things do you want to see? And I would encourage you to put suggestions in the vlog one as well. So we can see there, it's a YouTube playlist, has all the meetups all the way back to January this year. And you can grab that as soon as they're published. And again, you can subscribe to that as well. Somewhere there's, I'm subscribed, so I don't see it. And the notification bell will also give me notifications whenever something is new is added. So you don't even have to keep looking at it. You can just wait for the notification to come through. I'll leave that there. I don't see any other questions from anybody. All right, cool. So those people that asked questions, Pushkar, Paul, and others, thank you so much. I love seeing the questions. It really makes it worth my while being here. Boka and Sandulu, thank you very much for your comments and questions. Like I said, in the forums there, please feel free to use that. Get involved and you will get amazing answers from amazing people. Other than that, I look forward to seeing you all next month when we meet up again on the second Tuesday, as it is second Tuesday every month, 2 p.m. Sydney, Australia time. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful month. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you then.